Like, literally minimal. This is clearly designed for someone with much bigger ears than me. Like, let's try and pin it in. There we go. That's better. Yeah? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I've got a pretty loud voice anyway, so it's probably not the biggest issue. Is this, yeah. Does that only catch the stage? Does it matter if I go and off the stage? Am I allowed to or not? Well, if I sit in the stage, I might work with myself. I don't have to, obviously. Okay, so. I won't go far, I promise. These mics are really hard to get stuck on your ear, aren't they? Are they properly slipping? Or is it I've just got really small ears? It's just a bit loose in there. Loosen to it. So let me just try. Oh, yes, there you go. I don't know if I've just got weird ears. Could be true. So, I've never had anyone look at my ears for so long.
It might feel weird. I think if we do that.
I mean, it's staying on. It's just whether it falls off. Pretty bouncy. You got any other options or not? What else have you got? What is it? Okay. It pinches your head. Like, what the hell are you putting on me here? I just watching the Stranger Things. 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's noise there. It's not far. So I'm pretty loud. Yeah, cool. I feel like that guy that wants to shout quiet, but without the kind of authority that I don't have. Cool. Who's not been to, whose first time is this not? Who's been to SAINTCON more times before? Actually, I framed that question weirdly, right? Who's been 3 or more times? Who has ever listened to me speak before? Apart from the guy that works for me. Who else did you put your hand up? You've listened to me speak. Do you know what I spoke on last time? What was it? You can't remember. Perfect. I made an indelible impression. So I'm starting to feel that I'm typecast, because I'm obviously European, hence the accent. I've worked on this my entire life. But more importantly, every time I come to SAINTCON, I end up speaking about privacy. And it's the only conference that I speak about privacy at. So I'm starting to feel like SAINTCON just rolls me out as the token European to talk about data privacy. I cannot promise that this is going to be informative. It might be mildly entertaining. It might be mildly controversial. I don't apologize at all. My opinions are my own on all things. If you want to challenge and argue with me, you are welcome to. But I'd rather leave you something to think about than just tell you some facts they were in on some slides. I did also bring some chocolate, so I will ask some questions. And this came straight from England yesterday, literally yesterday. I landed on a plane last night about 11 p.m. So I will ask some questions. And audience participation is encouraged. In fact, I'll start it. Not mandatory, but can people stand up? Cool. You can. Good. I'm glad. Stay standing if you think that data privacy is actually a thing, that this actually matters. Feel free to sit down. There's no offense taken from me. Interesting. A lot less people sat down the last time I did this 3 years ago. Stay standing if you think it's more of a thing in Europe than it is in the US. Okay? Stay standing if you think that's changing. Stay standing if you think that the US now cares more about privacy than it did 5 years ago. Just more than 5 years ago. Interesting. Again, there's a lot more standing. I asked the same questions, but there's a lot more standing. Stay standing if you think it cares more about privacy than it did 3 years ago. Okay, so continuous trend. What about 1 year? Who thinks it's changed more in the last year? There's a few still standing. Let me have a look. Why? Why do you think it's changed more? Okay. Anyone who thinks that privacy has changed in the US and wants to answer why they think it's changed or what's changed?
So we've had 2 new pieces of state legislation for state agencies dictating how we deal with data privacy with student data.
Okay, the UPR Privacy Rights Act being one. And then there's another one coming in California, which is also fairly large, so probably forming more of a kind of federal. Everyone can sit down, by the way. So there's at least a perception that things are changing. Okay, good. Anyone know how big the biggest GDPR fine issued was? Or any number that's up there? Anyone know any of them? 70 billion. Too much. Let's go down a long way. It's part of Facebook's 5 billion fine, but the 5 billion fine in total wasn't all purely GDPR or privacy rights based. But we're getting to the right angle. Anyone else has some more guesses? 1 billion. We're pretty close. The largest pure GDPR fine is 775 million euros lodged at Amazon. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, dollars, euros, GBP. Sorry. Okay, I apologize for my... Look, it's even harder being a Brit. Okay, well, I've got 3 currencies in my head. At least you've only got 2. And to go one step further, does anyone know how much Amazon paid? No idea. No one has a clue. Anyone know how much that anyone has paid for a GDPR fine that was issued? Does anyone know the answer to any of those questions? Oh, there's a hand up. Money. Someone has paid money. Yeah, we actually have no idea. There is no single privacy fine which has been closed and paid officially and has been documented or publicized. They have all been settled out of court. So my point, which is meant to be slightly, I suppose, invasive in its opinion of will the US ever really care? I'm not sure that the world actually really cares. We make a gesture to care, but I'm not sure that we actually really do. I probably should introduce myself at some point. My name's Jay Bodez. I'm the VP of Security and Compliance at Wistic, which is a company down the road in Pleasant Grove, in the vendor risk management space. Prior to that, I've worked in Silicon Valley for the best part of a decade, and prior to that, I did a hell of a lot of different forms of pen testing as a consultant. Physical pen testing, social engineering, and everything else in between, including a lot of lockpicking, which is a lot of fun. And why do I have a right to actually speak on privacy? Well, I've done it twice at 2 different companies and made them full GDPR compliant, and we're on the way to our 3rd. I was responsible for everything privacy on the West Coast, which covers most of the major privacy engagements in America for a couple of years. I've dealt with major breach responses at an airline in the Middle East. We lived in Jordan. Funny story, actually, and you'll learn that I have some random stories in life. I was on the phone once. I used to work for a company called NCC Group. Anyone heard of NCC Group? No, they need to do better marketing in this state, clearly. But they're a consulting firm. And I got a phone call saying, can you please go and do a project in Amman? Does anyone know where Amman is? Jordan, yeah, I gave it away in the first bit, right? But I had no idea at the time, so I agreed and ended up with my family with a baby daughter who at the time was 7 weeks old, living in a hotel suite in Jordan, doing breach remediation for an airline who had committed a privacy breach. Interesting story. I got back and 2 weeks later got a phone call and got moved to here and California to work with major companies in the Silicon Valley Leviathan. If you know what that means, we'll get to it later. I've also done GDPR work at major retailers, banks that you've all heard of. I've got a ton of acronyms, of which those are just some of them, which you might care about or be remotely interested in. And I like to think that I am not an idiot, at least not entirely anyway. So there's some things we're going to talk about today. And again, some of these will make no sense. Hopefully they make some sense as we go, but I can't promise they will make a lot of sense, but they might be interesting. The questions we always want to ask, or at least I always want to ask, is what has changed? Why has it changed? Will there ever be federal or global regulation in this space? Will it ever exist? And what happens next? So what am I going to talk about? I'm going to do history in reverse to start with, to give us kind of a foundation about what we're talking about. I'm then going to talk about the worry I have for my children's future. I'm going to talk about why COVID-19 was actually GDPR's best friend. Bear with me on that one. When I said I might be controversial, these are the 3 slides in a row which might offend various people in the room. COVID-19 and GDPR, then woke ink and social justice and how it's changed the way that we think, and football or soccer, whether they are both the same thing or very different. And then the problem with known unknowns, and hopefully on the way we will learn some things. I'm going to start with a question on this one. The interesting thing I think about our kind of history is this concept of whether we're going to get to a global framework, a SOC 2 Type 2 effectively for privacy, right? We've got an attempt in ISO 27701, which no one really has, and if you've heard of, I'll be impressed, because most people haven't. So it's been very effective in its marketing. And I don't think we'll ever get there because we think differently as people, right? But I think it's interesting to go backwards and understand why this journey happened and how we got to the point that we now are. Because this is a topic that 10 years ago was completely nondescript. No one talked about data privacy. PII was an acronym that nobody knew. But 10 years on, suddenly it's a hot topic in basically every government globally and multinationals. It's become a marketing vehicle. It's big business. I think it's important to understand why. And so if we look now at the fact that I don't think there'll ever be global privacy regulation. In fact, I'll ask, does anyone think there will be? Does anyone ever think this will be a global thing that we will have to do? There will be an international law on how you deal with personal data? Anybody? No. America's never the audience to ask that question to. Oh, there is one in the back. Look at that, brave. You can have a chocolate just for being privacy focused. Come and get it when you want, now or later on. Come and choose a bar. But I'm interested, right? So if we go, but CPRA is about to launch. CPRA is very similar to the UPRA, but it's more important. They're both built off of GDPR in as much as they consider data privacy rights as individuals and how our data is protected, shared, sold, exchanged, all that kind of stuff. The reason CPRA matters more than the one in your state, no offense, is because there is so many more people in California and because Silicon Valley is in California. And therefore, most of the companies that actually deal with personal data on a daily basis in ginormous volumes are all based there. That's going to have an impact, but whether it will be enforced or not, good question. CCPA had a load of fines. Anyone know how many people have actually paid their CCPA fines? You see, you're starting to understand. What's interesting as well is why this stuff matters 10 years on. Data doesn't double. Don't listen to the TED Talks. It's all complete nonsense. Data increases on average by about 20 to 30% a year. Does anyone know what we're now measuring data in? I heard it, zettabytes is the one. Zettabytes, which goes from exabytes, which goes from petabytes. Now, zettabytes is interesting because I always think that you want to visualize things. I'm a visual learner. And a zettabyte effectively means that you have to have 500 quadrillion sheets of A4 paper. Now, again, to kind of bring that back into a visual lesson, the Burj Khalifa is the world's tallest building. My son desperately wants to go to it. And you'd have to fill 3 of those and some to consume the world's data at this point in time, right? It's a lot of paper. How much of it is on you? Does anyone want to guess? Like, does anyone know? Like, we don't, right? We have no idea how much data about us floats around, or what on earth that data is, or what someone might do with it, or why someone might want it. Like, it's scary. You go back from the relevance of CPRA and you get into Privacy Shield being thrown away. Privacy Shield was scrapped thanks to a guy called Max Schrems, who decided that basically all kinds of things happen in Europe, predominantly, again, let's go Silicon Valley. Main target was Meta, who were transferring information from the Republic of Ireland, which, by the way, if you don't know why all the tech companies have their offices in the Republic of Ireland, it's because it's a tax haven. And they were transferring all the data back across the US without any form of legally binding agreements, consent, or technical controls in place. And lots of that data was accessed maliciously or caught maliciously. And so the Privacy Shield, which, if anyone's ever done Privacy Shield for your company, has anyone done a Privacy Shield for their company? Do you think it has any value? No, it's nonsense, right? Why is it nonsense? Why? Exactly right. And the question's effectively like, are you able to tie your shoelaces? Like, they are literally ridiculous. So Privacy Shield was scrapped. The irony of this is, you know what's happening next year? No, Privacy Shield's coming back. So Privacy Shield was scrapped because it made no sense, and the EU and the US got back together and said, we need to find some kind of solution, because right now it's really complicated, and if you deal with privacy at your company or international data transfers, you'll learn the only people making money are lawyers, because there is a hell of a lot of legal work involved in this. So basically they got together and said, let's try something else. And their concept is, let's go back to Privacy Shield 2.0, which again, because it went through the courts here and because people can't agree, will be self-attestation. And the questions will be fairly similar. So I give it about 2 years before it gets scrapped again. But we will have a period of time when there'll be something else we can do. CCPA was probably the first part of disruptive privacy regulation in the US, predominantly and almost entirely focused on the sale of personal data. And it was, at least in gesture, aimed at trying to limit what Silicon Valley's Leviathan was trying to do, by which I mean kind of likes of Meta, Google, Apple, whoever else you kind of want to bundle into that group. Again, it's pretty weak in its enforcement, and if you actually read it, you'll learn it's very, very grey. It's very hard to work out who it applies to, when it applies, or what it actually means. Previous to that, the first and only time, I think, apart from one other instance, where something that happened mattered is GDPR. GDPR is big, like it is hard. I remember doing it back when it actually first got launched and doing the implementation programs in 2017. There is so much work behind that, and we'll get into some of it right at the end. But that made companies actually act. And it wasn't really because you were kind of afraid of getting fined. It was because people wouldn't do business with you. Like, you literally couldn't get a company to put you on their vendor list if you couldn't evidence that you'd done some kind of GDPR compliance. So it became quite important and relevant. So that was interesting. Before that was Privacy Shield, which was the form of GDPR. Doesn't matter now because we sacked it off. And before that is the DPA. Does anyone know what that stands for or where it's from? You're very close. It's not quite as close, but equally somewhat close. It's the Data Protection Act. Anyone know where it's from? I'll give you another bar of chocolate. We've already lost one. I'm offering chocolates out for anyone with any knowledge. I'm going to eat them all if not, don't worry. Actually, I'll take them to work and let them anyway. The Data Protection Act came from the UK. Yes, we are the people that care and started this whole movement. I apologize profusely. But we started it in 1998, about 10 years after computers went mainstream. Yes, you can argue with me on that date, but most people generally accept that that's kind of the point in time where it came. And it was, I suppose, in reaction to understanding that suddenly there was a lot of data around, both electronically and both non-electronically, and we should do something to control it. Now, what's fascinating is 1998 to 2018. That's a long time. That's 20 years that this whole space went entirely unchecked. Think about what happened in then. Like, think about the fact that there was no 3G, 4G, no social media, no mobile phones in the modern smartphone world, no GPS available to anyone outside the military. Like, think about all the things that happened in that time period, And it took that long before somebody did something. You had a hand up. Yeah? There's lots of things I could have put in there. But we're...
Well, except there's never been a fine, there's never been a lawsuit, right? Like every other one of these, right? There's just, there's no teeth on them.
Yeah, I think that the point here is to stick to kind of generic ones that cover all kind of things rather than focus on specifically, because UK and Europe has their own specific parts of electronic and marketing e-privacy regulations and electronic e-privacy regulations, all that relate specifically to children and the age of consent, which varies and changes around. But yeah, I agree, there are other things that we could have covered in there, but my slide would have got too busy, so I'm sorry. Forgive it. These two pictures are my kids. The little boy is Oliver, and the little girl is Isabel. Now, the reason these are poignant is what happened in 2018? Read the last slide. Anyone remember what was on the last slide? GDPR, great, thank you. So I took this picture to talk about the relevance of GDPR in kids at the time that it came to place. And that one was taken on Monday night. Anyone know where the shard is or what the shard is? Yeah? What is it? Oh, you can come and get a bar of chocolate at the end. That's impressive knowledge. It's the tallest building in Europe too, I think, currently. And for some reason, my kids want to have dinner at the top of the shard. Don't know why. They're strange children. But anyway, that's a separate side note. So why do I have a worry for my children's future? This is why. When GDPR came to force, my kids were 4 and 0. Their data electronically was held in a number of places. Passports. Our passports are electronic, so are yours. Right? They hold data around you. That's the point, biometrics. They had birth certificates. I don't know how that works in the US, but ours are held electronically, and they're held centrally by the government, by a branch of the government. We fly a lot, both for holidays and for work, and that meant that airlines, predominantly Delta, had a lot of my data and my children's data, the stuff about how old they are, what they like to eat, that kind of thing. We spend a lot of time in hotels, predominantly IHG, so they know about my kids, their age, their preferences, their requirements. And Vitality is a health insurance company, which covers them for the illnesses they have, and both my kids have an illness of some form and therefore have a long-standing kind of record and back catalogue. Now, that's interesting, but most of those are fairly trustworthy. All right, IHG got hacked not long ago, before anyone raises their hand. But they're predominantly government agencies. And yes, if anyone else wants to make that joke, I'm aware that my government is a bit of a mess. We've had 3 prime ministers in the space of 3 months, but that's a separate conversation for another day. But in theory, you should be able to trust them more. Now, things have changed. It's 2022, and my kids are now older. My son is 8 and my daughter is 4. So those parts of their data will still exist, but they'll have other data as well, and why and what. Now, my children, like everyone else's children, for some reason are obsessed with YouTube. I don't know why. I don't know why they like watching people unbox toys or play with other people's toys. It seems a strange, weird thing to me, but they do. I only let them on YouTube Kids, and only when I can see them, but still, even with those limitations, YouTube knows what they like, right? It knows what they watch. It's predictive. That's how it works. And what's interesting about that is it's also public. So if people want to try and exploit my kids and insert videos or stuff that I don't want them to see, then they know the types of things that my kids would like. And they're not abnormal. They're fairly standard children. So they know what kind of things kids of those ages would like, right? First thing that makes me slightly nervous. Second is Alexa. We can argue long into the night about whether Alexa listens to you or not, and whether or not it has data from what you said. Separate conversation again. But I have several in my home, and my kids interact with them a lot. They ask them the football scores. My son's obsessed with football or soccer. My daughter gets to tell jokes or tell stories or to play songs, right? So they know, again, the things that my children like, the things that they react to. They know their voice. In theory, that's been recorded, right? Instagram. Now, I was talking upstairs to some people earlier this morning about the fact that I've educated my wife in the fact that Instagram should be a private account. She's not a blogger. She's just a normal sharer. But then she has thousands of friends, which I once investigated and said, why do you have thousands of followers? Because she said, well, I just approve anyone who asks to follow me. What's the point in your account being private at that point? Right? So I don't know who can see the pictures of my children, neither does she, because she has no idea who half of these people are. So that's a scary point. Amazon is the one that makes me most slightly nervous. My kids spend a lot of time on Amazon looking for various toys they want to buy and adding them to wish lists and shopping baskets and various other things. And that means that it predicts what it thinks I want to buy. And while I'm not an avid fan of Paw Patrol, I get offered a lot of Paw Patrol deals. Right? And that means that Amazon knows a lot. Like, again, they know everything that my kids think and like. That scares me. And the one that really terrifies me, Apple. You know what's really interesting? I love this. You might say, I don't know if this was a US thing or just a European thing. Apple played an advert for a while where they started talking about how you can turn off tracking in all the apps and turn off and effectively make your apps private. Was that an advert here too? Yeah, right? Interesting, right? Because you can control every app that's on your phone. They don't let you turn apples off. Like, think about that for a second. You can turn off any app on your phone, apart from Apple. They know everything about you. Like, they know everywhere I go. They know when my kids are using my phone because of the apps that they're accessing. They literally know everything that I think. That's terrifying. Like, I think about the next 4 years on, if I took these same pictures again, my son will be 12. I'm open enough to say I don't know where the metaverse is going. Like, but it makes me slightly nervous thinking about my son in a VR world, having experiences and seeing things and interacting with people that I can't see or control. Because even like when I'm sitting over his shoulder with an iPad, that doesn't work if I'm not actually in the space with him. That scares me. And I think also when we go deeper than that, if we think about, we all laugh at like our grandparents who like, you've probably been there, right? I FaceTime with my nan all the time and she'll try and talk to the kids and she'll use the FaceTime filters and before you know it, she's stuck as a unicorn and there's rainbows coming out of her mouth and she can't work how to turn it off, right? Or the fact that they're trying to write on Facebook and she ends up sharing like some picture of her shoes because she was trying to take a picture of what was in front of her, but she moved the camera too fast, right? And we laugh about that, but we are so similar. Like, we're so naive to the amount of data that we share and the impact that it has on the world around us and the impact it has on our lives. Like, we don't think, and we let our kids do the same stuff, and it terrifies me, and it should terrify you. Moving on. This is where I might get slightly controversial, so I apologize, but I don't apologize too much. Since I think I've already got 2 people who can get some chocolate. Let's have another one like that. Why, you need your slide, why is GDPR being helped by COVID-19? Why am I making this statement? Anybody, hazard a guess. There's no wrong answers.
Well, everybody had to start tracking their vaccination status and voluntarily giving up their health data based on whatever various random vendor or company they were going to go to.
I'll take that. You can have one. You can come and get one as well. I've lost track of who's allowed chocolate, so one of you can come and get in the end. Yeah, at the back. That's really interesting. I've not covered that at all in this, but I want to go to that. That's really interesting. So your point is effectively that because people's human interaction was limited, they spent more time in online experiences trying to seek social interaction or social involvement, which meant they were exposing more of their own lives in a non-normal way. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, so yeah, you should come get some chocolate as well. That's really clever. But yeah, you're entirely right, yeah? So, and that point's very valid too. GDPR was held because we became cognizant of data. Like, it's weird, and I'll talk about some other points about why it's weird, but it took a global pandemic to make us think. Now, most of us said, I don't really care if the government has my data. Well, most of us in Europe did. The US was a very different situation. But most of us didn't really care. We said, you know what? It's my health. It's my family's health. It's my friend's health. Go ahead and take it. But we were only okay for so long, and then we weren't. And I think what we saw is we saw firstly the power of data, and we saw less democratic nations, and we'll get into some of that, who then saw how they could use that data for control and for dominion. We saw what it might feel like to live in Orwell's 1984, because suddenly everyone knew everything about us, and we were forced to tell everyone everything about us. And that was kind of freaky. I've read that book a number of times, and I think it's now like an understatement of what we actually live in, so it's interesting. And we saw that our governments, our major businesses, had no concept of what basic human privacy rights were. Right, in the US, you often flout your amendment rights. That's not an insult. I quite like it about the Americans. But what it really saw is the government had no concept at all around individual privacy rights. They literally just threw them out the window. So what are some of the things that happened? I can sort of read that. This is a quote directly from a Deloitte report, and I think I don't usually put lots of text on, but I found this one interesting. It says, many of the protective measures governments are taking in these areas are well understood and supported by the affected populations. Concerns are being raised, however, about their intrusiveness on personal privacy and the implications for the future. The future being the key word, we'll come to that. Government officials and corporate privacy officers struggle with balancing protection measures and privacy safeguards, often without clear guidance from regulators, because no one had a clue at the top. And in the private sector, corporate boards and top management have tended not to prioritize privacy aspects in the fight against the virus. I'd like to say that's not purely incidental, but that might be my view against major multinational corporations. Some examples globally. Some will be focused everywhere, and some are quite specific. We started to share our vaccination history. We were asked for it, right? I'm still asked for it at the airport now. I've still got an app, and I share it as like a digital certificate. I don't care about that. I'm all right with that. That's fine. Medical history. Are you more susceptible to COVID? Should you be kept indoors more? This was a thing in the UK. Certain people were told to stay indoors when certain were allowed to go out based on your susceptibility. And that's particularly relevant in a state healthcare system. When we're paying for you, we don't want to increase the risk of kind of strangling the system, right? So that happened in a lot of countries with state healthcare. Travel history. Where have you been? Are you more likely to bring COVID to there or bring it back from there? Should you quarantine? Who should pay for your quarantine? Well, these became questions we had to share. Contact history. This happened in several countries in the Far East and in the Middle East. Who are you speaking to? They literally have centrally owned telecommunications network, and they can tell who you're physically in contact with. Like, has your phone been in the vicinity of this person? They had COVID in the last 72 hours, so why are you together? You just breached a rule. You're now getting fined. Right, they were doing that, genuinely. Your social media data. People got fined in the UK loads for Instagram posts. This was a big thing. People would take an Instagram post of them like walking their dog with a friend, having a coffee, and we had a rule in the UK for quite a while where you could only go outdoors for shopping and for exercise twice a day, and you couldn't see anyone who was outside of your like major family network, basically. So people would post it on Instagram, and the police were genuinely tracking it. People were reporting to it. It's like living in the Stasi. It was weird. But people got reported and got fined because they were caught on Instagram having a coffee with a friend. Your car data. There was countries in the world where the data, and I won't name any names, but one of them just bought a bird-based company this morning, were selling their data to national governments who were tracking where they were to see how far they'd gone, if they'd like left like the physical area they're allowed to be in. Like they were literally tracking the cars. And then live movements. I know because the company I used to work for did this for 2 governments, and they were genuinely allowed with a state-owned telecommunications network to track the physical movements, like a kind of Find My Phone type world, of where people went, to see if they went too far from their home, or to see if they changed country and didn't tell people about it, and find a prosecutor against it. Freaky, right? And I think 2 things came out of this. I think one of them are lessons learned for us, and one of them is a lesson learned for governments and for kind of major multinationals. For us, we became aware that our data can do stuff, right? It's strange. The government asks for your vaccine record or like your medical history. You're like, no, I won't give you that. I'm outraged. But Facebook asked you like 100 questions to decide if you were more like Luke Skywalker or more like Harry Potter, and you were happy to answer every one of them. Like, go figure, right? We seemed suddenly to be uncomfortable with the data we were being shared because it was being shared with the government, maybe, or because suddenly it was much more relevant as a topic. We started to think that there was kind of Big Brother. We started to feel slightly unnerved about what was happening. And it gave us kind of a real insight into, I suppose, how much this data can move. It also made us angry, but then if you've been following the news for the last 3 to 5 years, lots of things have made us angry as a government and as a people, so we'll move on from that. Government-wise, they saw that data is power. I don't think governments internationally have really seen that in the way they did until COVID. They saw value, power, control. They also saw that once you can get rid of consent, because you didn't need to consent to this stuff most of the time, very hard for you to try and get them to reinstate it. They can now do what they want with your data because you had to give them in the first place. And because it was a crisis, they didn't get much documentation on what they were going to use it for. They just said, solving the virus. Right? Who knows what that includes? It also, I think, it gave them a kind of a reasoning that it's very hard to do the thing that's right for me as a politician or as a government, as an entity, and for the individuals that are there. And I think it left us with 3 questions. It left us with the questions of, what are my privacy rights, and when is it right to remove my rights? When can you take them? What is okay? What do we feel all right about? It left me thinking, once data is required for one purpose, can we control and can we guarantee it's not used for other things? Because I happen to know that some of that data that was acquired for tracking people's COVID movements is now used for tracking criminals. And that was data they weren't legally allowed access to until COVID-19 pandemic happened. Interesting, right? And also, should privacy ever be a priority at all when you've got these kind of issues? Anyone read any of these books? Any of them at all? Come on. I am shocked. One person. You can come and have a chocolate bar at the end, just for having actually been well read in this kind of verse. I have spent a long time in Silicon Valley, and I hopefully don't offend people at this point, But I have no real love for social justice or for the woke movement. And these 3 books are all about that. And they're about one key point specifically. You're going to have to bear with me for why this is relevant. They all talk about how what we call the Silicon Valley Leviathan, this group of a small set of, well, not small, but a small set of very large tech companies, affect everything we think. How through the use of fake news dissemination or intelligent behavioral algorithms, they can force us down pathways they want us to, whether that's in electioneering or in behavioral things. Because in the end, if we're scrapping on Facebook about whether or not we think we should vote for Trump or an anti-Trump, then we're spending more time on the platform. Do you know who makes more money? Facebook, because they get more money from marketing. Right? They want you there arguing. They want people to fight. What we also learned is that they can do what we know is a different form of search engine optimization. This is an interesting social experiment. Don't do it now, do it later. But they are predominantly left-wing and liberal in their values. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with being told what right and wrong is. If you go onto Google later and Google straight white couple, you will find that within the first line, you will find couples that are mixed race or homosexual. No problem with that, but it's not what I've Googled, so why does it come back? If you Google black or mixed race gay couple, you won't see a straight white couple at all. In fact, I went through like the first 30 pages and still didn't find one. Now, again, I have a problem with the social views that are being portrayed there, but I do have a problem with the fact that people are being influenced into what they think. We're being told that our views aren't right. Google far-right politics, and you will find lots of pictures of Hitler and violence and anger and neo-Nazis. Google far-left politics, and you'll find gay pride movements. And you'll find people who are doing sit-in protests, or people who are chained to trees that look like they are good, positive cultural movements, right? We are being controlled in the way that we think. Why is that relevant? And these are my opinions. I think that one of the key focuses of privacy was about being able to control what people knew about us. So there is this concept that you can ask for all the data that's held on you. You can ask for it to be deleted. You can ask for it to be changed or amended. But you can't change what people think about it. There has been a lot of politicians, a lot of celebrities, a lot of influential people, a lot of quite normal people, who for the views they held 10, 15 years ago have lost their jobs, careers, and various other things. Because their comments are taken either out of context, maybe in context, but in a different time. We view things with a different set of eyes now than we did before. Or maybe they're complete nonsense altogether, which is also true in some instances. Now, why I think that's interesting is that one of the reasons I left social media is because I got worried about everything I could possibly say that could offend somebody and come back to bite me in the butt at some point. So I thought, let's just get out the platform altogether, among other things. But what we don't realize is what we say now that's perfectly fine might not be fine one day. Now, is that not one of my rights to privacy, one of my fundamental rights as an individual, to have the right to, I suppose, refute, the right to defend? In a modern digital mob, we don't have that ability. I'll give you one key example, which I think is really interesting. Anyone seen the rise and fall of Abercrombie and Fitch on Netflix? Someone said yes. Gosh, I'm amazed someone said yes. Thank you. Usually no one ever says yes if I ask that question. But the reason this is important is that if you go to the mid to late noughties, the real height or real ramping of social media, Abercrombie and Fitch was about the coolest brand you could have in the US for quite a long time. It represented kind of preppy, cool, masculine, hunky America. Fast forward 10 years and what happened? Yeah, it's fascinating, right? So go forward, what was cool, people wanted pictures and tagged Abercrombie and Fitch because it was what was cool at the time. Go forward 10 years and people come back and if you had a slogan saying Abercrombie and Fitch is the coolest thing ever, well, you just associated yourself with xenophobism, racism, toxic masculinity, chauvinism, like everything you can possibly think of. 10 years ago, fine. Now, no. I always think that you go on Instagram in the morning, you take a picture of your coffee at this cool new hotspot on the new brunch trend that's currently trending. 5 years' time, that coffee company might be done for modern slavery, that brunch menu item might now be considered to be completely offensive in the way that something like foie gras might be, for all I know what's going to happen and what's going to change. And the restaurant you might be in might have now been done for selling out to a major multinational corporation and selling their values in the way that's happened to a couple of companies that went to Coca-Cola or McDonald's, right? So things can change frequently. So my point here is that privacy, there are written rights that are easy to put into place, hard to enforce, hence no one's been fined properly. But I think it runs deeper, and I want to kind of be thought provocative here. I want people to think about not just about the fact that the data that we share should be ours to control, but think about the implications of what it could mean in the future, and think about what we think about that as a society. Do we think it's right that people should be judged according to things that they said now, or in the time that they said them? Because for me, that's part of the data privacy debate. Anyone know how many people watched the World Cup in 2018, the World Cup final? Yeah, go ahead. No? 250 million? Gosh, you need a larger education on the importance of soccer globally. A billion? Honestly, this is one of the few times I say that Americans do not understand the world outside of them. 3.9 billion people watched the World Cup final in 2018. 3.9 billion. And that's registered devices. So you could have had bars where there was like 100 people watching it. So we're probably talking about at least 2/3, if not 3/4 of the populace of this planet. Interesting. Why, again, am I talking about this? It seems really random and unimportant. But it's because if I say football in the US, what's the first body part you think of? He's throwing hand, right? Very helpful, good placement. He's throwing hand, right? Football to everyone else in the world, foot. There are facts that exist. In the average NFL game, the ball is kicked for somewhere between 20 and 39 seconds of total kicking time, actual moments that the ball is kicked, right? That's not very much, especially when you include the adverts and you've got about 4 hours watching an NFL game. That's not very much. Anyone know, borrow chocolate line, I've got how many I've given out now. Anyone know when American football became American football? I'll give you a clue. It's oh, he's got his hand up already. No, too early. I'll give you a clue. It's when the first time that forward passing was written into the rules. 1920s. Close, too far. As the closest, you're welcome to take it on by the end. It's 1905. 1905 was the year that the forward pass became a thing, and that American football started in the form that American football is. Before that point, it was a combination of two games. Football, obviously, and something that's called rugby, which used to be called rugby football, which meant that it was a combination predominantly of about 40% kicking and the rest of it throwing. It then changed down to being less than 0.3% of kicking and the rest throwing. Again, why does this matter? Because if you ask any American what football is, they will not point to a game that involves people kicking a ball. They will point to a game that involves people throwing a ball. And that's because we as a society control rhetoric. We control what things are defined as. People can tell us what they want, but in the end, we decide what things are called because we call them those things. So football will always be football here, and football will always be football everywhere else. Why does that matter for GDPR? Because there's another thing that Americans don't like, and you'll probably all nod in agreement here. You don't like being told by Europe what you should do. And we've tried multiple times in this, and it's not succeeding very well. So what the general acceptance is that if privacy is going to succeed in the US, it has to happen in the US. The same way that American football was built and cultured here, and not just taken from a different country. That's how things work in America, right? Love it or loathe it, that's how things are. And what's interesting is that federal regulation, in my opinion, will never happen in the US. Why? I'm an anti-lobbyist. I make no apologies. I don't think as long as marketing companies are paying the salaries of several congressmen, or many, many congressmen, there will be no federal privacy laws in America. However, state by state, they'll try and make some kind of gesture and movement. More importantly, what I'm seeing is a culture shift in us. Security. Massive culture shift, genuinely. I last lived and worked over here about 3 or 4 years ago before my current company, and I hadn't been in the US as much. And back then, no one gave a stuff. Like, nobody cared. If I spoke about privacy or GDPR, the question was, how can I get around it? I want to sell in Europe. How do I avoid this problem? Now, I've got companies raising privacy concerns to me as a WISTIC that have no European, no non-US customers at all. And they're like, well, we want to do the right thing. Like, what's your stance on this? Like, do you think that's the right thing to do from privacy-wise? I did not expect that. And that's changed because culturally, we're shifting the norm. We as security leaders and as a security populace in the US are deciding what privacy is. the things that we think matter, not because governments or regulators tell them, because we think those things are relevant, because we care about this, or we care about that, or we don't care about this. It's like a smorgasbord and we're taking parts from the buffet. In the same way that American football came to be, that is how we are doing things, right? We are driving change. And every country needs to eventually adopt what fits. And I think it will happen in the US. I think the US already cares about privacy. I think that it's happening in a tech community, predominantly a security community, and it will overflow, but it'll take time to get there. Last couple of slides. I'm aware that I'm well over time, but no one's left yet, or the odd person has, but that's probably because I was just being marginally offensive. Unashamed product placement. I work for a company that works in the vendor risk space. Why does this matter? Because supply chains are big and complicated things, right? They just are. I've now been in charge of security at several companies as a CISO or vCISO, and I've not owned a data center or data estate in 6 years, 7 years. Since then, I've had nothing, like no infrastructure at all. Everything is SaaS. From our infra to our products built to our testing environments to all the products we consume. Everything is SaaS. Now, the challenge here, and I think I'm all right at this, but I think most people probably aren't, is do you know where data is moving between all of those vendors? Because I'd like to hazard a guess that most people don't. And you don't really know. You might do vendor assessments, but you don't really know where data is going, right? And it's interesting. So over 50% of breaches happen in supply chains. That's not directly in supply chain companies, but that's considering things like third-party library components in products. They are not yours. You don't own them. So if they get breached, technically it's part of a supply chain. 37% year on year, those are increasing. And now 35% of companies, as of this year, have over 1,000 vendors in their supply chain. That number only a year ago, 1 year ago, was 20%. So it's gone up by like nearly 100% in a year. That's how quickly this is going. 91% of CISOs are spending more money on this stuff. They're trying to make things automated. But 50% of CISOs, and this is the most recent study, one I contribute to, and I was not part of that 50%, don't know what their risks are. They don't know where they are. That's slightly unnerving, right? What are the major risks in our business? No idea, mate. What am I paying you for? What we do is Wistic, and why this is relevant, and there are other competitors for us, please don't take this as a pure, you should buy Wistic. But it's a way of looking in transparency in supply chains, trying to understand not just where the data's going, but what are they doing with it? Why do they have it? Who are they giving it to? Who are the fourth parties, the fifth parties, the sixth parties, the seventh parties? And I can tell you they're definitely going to double digits in several different environments in our estate at least. And the opposite way around, how many people here have had to complete a vendor assessment that's been given to them that they've had to then return to somebody? Yeah, I don't believe there's only 4 or 5 hands. More of you have done that, but you don't want to put your hands up at this point because you think I'm going to ask you a question. It's fine. We're trying to get away from that, right? We build on things like profiles, the idea that you can put all this data in one place and push someone and say, we are being transparent. You know what? Here's my SOC 2 report. Mine's in there. Warts and all. I've got my exceptions in there. Pen testing report. All of them. They're in there. They're remediated, but they're in there. Well, I'll tell you anything you want to know because I think that when we talk about privacy, the same as when we talk about security, I am an advocate massively for transparency. We should, as a community, be together. We should talk about where data moves. We should talk about why it's moving there. We should talk about what we're doing to secure those movements. We should talk about our posture. What are our struggles right now? What's hard? What are we doing to solve it? What are other people doing to solve it? We should learn. We should build, and that's what Wistic is about. We want to build an ecosystem where everyone can see each other's security postures, their documentations, who they use for pen testing, what they pen tested, what they found, what they didn't. And we can learn and collaborate together to make the world and the security world a better and more secure place. And that, in turn, means that personal data, by nature of that effort, will be better protected. Because right now, we don't know where it is and we don't know what the risks are. To give you something remotely useful to go away with, 5 key points that if you do want to try and improve the data privacy posture of a business are, firstly, there's no real surprise, understand your data. There's a thing called a data asset inventory and data flow mapping, if you know any GDPR acronyms. And what those are effectively is a map that says, this is all the elements of personal data, very granularly, name, address, whatever, right? Or sexual orientation, gender, political opinions, all the different types. Where it goes, how it gets there. What's that? Is that an API call? Is it secured? Is it not? Is it being dropped into SFTP and picked up, in an Excel spreadsheet? How's it moving? That's number one. Number 2, consent. I cannot, I've been in a lot of businesses that have been in hot water when I've got there around this kind of issue. Consent. Get consent and understand what you've got consent for and use it. And I'd say do that now, even when there isn't proper, like, even if you don't think privacy is a relevant thing, because it's going to come at some point and it's going to bite you in the butt if you've got a database somewhere in your company that marketing's holding of like 100,000 users that you bought from somebody. Might be okay now, probably isn't in a year or two. Assess your supply chain. Yeah, I'm kind of pitching my product, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not pitching my product. I want to increase our ARR number. Reality. But at the same time, it's really important to understand the risk in your supply chain to make sure you do enough to secure and protect it. Be transparent. Like, tell people in privacy policies and documentation why you do what you do and what you do, who you share it with, why you share it, what they can do if they want to know more. And then make sure that you have a holistic and mature security posture. Having SOC 2, Type 2, and ISO 27001 does not mean you have a mature security posture. It means that you know how to play the auditor game. Having a mature security posture means that you actually take these things seriously and do proper work. Like that you actually build secure systems in a secure way, that your engineers care about security. I hope that has been remotely useful, mildly entertaining, and somewhat interesting. If you have any questions on anything, you can reach me by email. If not, I'm happy to take any Q&A people might have. If not, I'll shut up and go away. Cool, I'll shut up and go away. If I said you could come and claim some chocolate, then please come and claim some. If I didn't, but you're faster than the other people in the room, then there's probably more there than there are people who I guess they could claim some. So feel free to have a fight for the fittest. But thank you very much for listening.
Check, 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 check. No, you're good. Check, 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 check. Do I recognize anybody in the back? But can anybody in the back? Oh, Wes, how's it sound? Up? Okay, we good. Okay, then just bring the levels down. Check. That's kind of insanely high.
Testing. Good morning. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'll come in and get a seat. We're going to take a minute here and do the Hackers Challenge Shakedown. I'll give you about 20 seconds to get in, get a seat, do what you need, and we'll get started. You asked for it, I'll give it. This year, Hackers Challenge was a hit. I loved it. You loved it. I hope you had a ton of fun. Yes. I always want to start out by giving a minute and saying thank you to the amazing team that supported Hackers Challenge this year. Last year, I started Hackers Challenge saying, this is going to be my last year. I'm ready to retire. I'm done. It's been a long 8 years. I've loved it. And it's a baby that needs to be passed on to somebody else. And some of my good friends, your competitors and friends as well, came forward and said, hey, you need to keep doing this because you rock at it, and we want to help you. So thank you so much to Rigel and to Santiago for stepping up and being the support that I needed as staff members for Hackers Challenge to make it happen and be successful. And so thank you. I'm here to stay. I loved it this year. I started not exhausted. I'm ending energized from talking and playing with each of you. So that is wonderful. Because you weren't playing the challenges. Yes, I did not play the challenges this year. I got to sleep. I thought I had another slide here. It's not showing in my presenter mode. I also want to say thank you to my volunteers. Had a couple other volunteers that were helping me. Had Sheeprock and Squatch, and they were there at the booth playing as well with you, but not privy to extra information, but they put in a lot of effort to spend time at the booth to welcome you and invite new people to the Hackers Challenge. So thank you to the volunteers too. So what you're interested in, stats. You want to know all the stats of the crazy things that happened, right? So most solves was the puzzle filter it. Well number of solves there. Large percentage of the players solved that one. Not everybody, but most. Challenge with the least solved. This isn't unsolved. We have a couple unsolved ones. But with least solves, only one player solved Burn the Bridge. Players or peoples with the most solves, you will see there's 2 names there. We've got Taco Singularity and Lego Clones, both with the most solves. This is not where I'm telling you who's winning Hacker Challenge this year. You're going to have to come to closing ceremonies for that. Even if one name is there with the most solves, does not mean they have the most points. So, very interesting. Total people who solved the challenge. So we had a lot of players this year. It was great to see 264 players that actually solved the challenge. Not everybody that registered actually was able to solve one, but 264 to actually solve a single is a good hit. 57 people that played enough to solve a full 10 puzzles. What this tells me is that I didn't do enough beginner puzzles. I'm sorry if the challenge difficulty went from a couple easy ones to high, medium to high, hard. I need to get some more in that lower range. Message heard. 363 wrong answer guesses for the puzzle with the most wrong answers. That would be the crypto means gibberish puzzle. And then the player, you know who you are, 267 wrong guesses throughout the game. Which ends up to being about 41% correct answers and somewhere around 59% wrong answers throughout the game. Total 68 challenges on the board. We did not do Hacker Jeopardy this year. You guys were having fun with what was on the board. I didn't want to throw in another wrench of distraction. So no Hacker Jeopardy this year, but the trivia will be coming back next year. Do count on it. Double Jeopardy was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the variety that we threw in with the OT challenges, ICS challenges on day 2 and day 3, Double Jeopardy. Special call out thanks for the OT and ICS puzzles that were contributed by a good friend and player. You guys loved them, and so thank you so much for contributing those. Registered users, 372 users registered, 264 players actually played. So, AWS stats. Most of our infrastructure was hosted in AWS. Next year there will be infrastructure in Azure for you to attack. I'm telling you that now. We had 28 instances, somewhere several dozen CNAMEs. There will be some lambdas next year. I'm just telling you that there's some fun challenges there that you'll see. Rigel says he couldn't do it because he couldn't figure out Lambda. We had some ideas that would have been fun for like the hash collider. That definitely could have been a Lambda instead of an S3 instance, but next year. S3 objects. We stored 100 megabytes of S3 objects, over 9,000 unique items. We were logging your activities, be it in the hash collider or in the shell games. You'll see some of those fun things that you produced for us. So those are the stats. Is there any call out? Anybody want to say, hey, I want to know about this stat really quick before I move on?
How many challenge authors?
Challenge authors. I will get that list for you. I will post that in the Hackers Challenge channel for everybody. We had a lot of fun contributions. We had Rigel and Santi and myself that hit the vast majority of them. We had a lot of contributions from a lot of communities. We had them from the password cracking community in Q. We had them from Brucifer and team in the healthcare community. We had them from Vortex in the home labs community. We had AppSec community contributed some. Our ICS OTS was contributed by Spectre, and we really appreciate them. And then the remainders were me, Santi. Oh, and I'll call out one by our good friend Scotty that's not here this year. Scotty's won Hackers Challenge 3 times in the past. Couldn't make it this year, but he pulled out the Python challenge, the tar pit for me. And Plum. I have to call out Plum. Yes, Plum provided a couple of RE challenges. One of his own design and one from inspiration from myself as well. So a really very big thank you to the contributors that helped me build Hackers Challenge. They love it as much as you do and have had fun with it, and it makes it a wonderful game. This was one of my favorite challenges this year. It was Pre-Con Challenge that showed its face on the board. Did you have fun with it? Okay. I would have loved to produce this coin and provide it to you. I actually started 3D modeling it to that. Didn't get to that point. So maybe next year the coin will surface as a physical coin. Any questions? Did anybody not solve it or curious about it? Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So this coin is a lot of very basic classic crypto, stuff that's kind of fun. Let's look at the front of the coin, and you'll see around the face, there's the Hackers Challenge words on the outside. On the inside, you'll find Braille dots. And those...
Could you try again?
No, Siri. I won't try again. So these Braille dots indicated numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll notice that those dots are underneath letters. So 1 under an A, 2 under a T. And so this spells out a name @bash, which is the next cipher that's used for the outside ring of this coin. So @bash is a bit classic crypto cipher where it's A equals Z and B equals Y and just reverses the alphabet. And so once you've used @bash on the outer ring, you get a hint that says something to the effect of 7 width, 5 deep. With some of my favorite classic hacker hints, and you should go decode it and see the messages. 5 wide, 7 deep means you go ahead and take these 70 characters, and you write across 7 characters, across, 7 characters, and 5 down. And after you've done that, you have a square. Then you have to create a new square and do the same thing. And so with these 2 squares, you can then read the message down the columns to get to the next step. That will end with a hint towards XORs. And so then you take these binary, this hexadecimal digit string, and you XOR that against the center text. There's a gotcha there. If you're using tools like CyberChef, it works on byte boundaries. It won't work on nibble boundaries. And so I gave you 5 nibbles, or 2.5 bytes. So it breaks CyberChef. So you either have to find a way to make it split on a byte boundary, as in double the string, or do it by hand, which is what I wanted you to learn. It's a lot of fun. So I had fun creating that one for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Another one that people bugged me about said, why doesn't this scan on my phone? Why doesn't my app work? Why doesn't it scan on the online app? This is, anybody know what this QR code is now? No, it's not QR code, it's 2D barcode. What is it? It's a data matrix. And the reason people are having problems scanning is because it's actually a mirrored image. And if your app or your tool doesn't properly detect it as a mirror image or a rotated image, which some of the apps are just very lazy and they expect it one way, then it doesn't work. I tested it on a couple online tools and various apps that do work and take it all, when they build a redundant compatible app, they'll get you to a website. How many here saw Clippy? Hands up, did you like Clippy? So Clippy's Revenge, it was a lot of fun. If you used it in Chromium, or in Chrome, Google Chrome, the key was in your clipboard immediately. As soon as you click the copy key button, it overwrote whatever was in the clipboard. All you had to do is load the page and paste the key into anywhere, and you already had the key. It was a fun troll. If you didn't see it, I want to show it to you. And I told him it doesn't have sound, but this one does have sound, and it doesn't matter. Well, this was Mini Badge? Yeah, Mini Badge, there we go. So we've got Clippy here, Clippy's Revenge, popping up, making all the classic Clippy sounds, bouncing around, giving you hints. Once again, now right now the key is in my clipboard, so if I were to come up here, the flag that you needed is that flag. The real flag was the friends we made along the way. As soon as you clicked the copy flag or tried to copy and paste this flag here, it overwrote what was in the clipboard, and you didn't find your key. I know many of you spent hours digging through the jQuery JavaScript where this was hidden, but the easy way was just to run it in Chrome and paste it into your as your key. Okay, Clippy, bye. Okay, unsolved challenges. There were 2 on the board. The root of the problem and in plain sight. Root of the problem. This was an interesting challenge. Right, Jason, you want to come up and talk a little bit about it? Your experiences digging through it? Spectre? You willing to walk up here and tell us a little bit? Okay. So root of the challenge was unsolved. Essentially, it was a hardware device that was down in the healthcare community, and there was some difficulty there that we believed it to be vulnerable to a CVE and an issue that it actually was not vulnerable to. And so in order to solve this one, you would have had to tear apart the device and do some hardware hacking. In plain sight. I have this on my slide. I don't remember which one it is. VeraCrypt. Oh, VeraCrypt. Yes. Let's pull up my notes here because I don't remember. Okay, so VeraCrypt, we have a VeraCrypt volume that VeraCrypt has an outer volume and an inner volume. The password to the inner volume is Shane134. So the idea was here that you'd be able to brute force this password based off of the list of passwords and examples of what they'd used. You would notice that this favorite number was 134, that you had names that they had reused in these, and so you'd build this password list based off of all these examples that were already used. So pretty easy, so you confirm that. And then in that volume, once you open, there's a couple red herrings, so you don't waste your time in there. And then there was a hidden volume inside that was pretty obvious. It's supposed to be pretty obvious to crack. The hidden volume, once again, is Charlotte134. Once again, built on that same password list, same favorite numbers, except that there was a custom iteration count. Once again, though, if you see that and you're trying how many times I iterate through this, it's that same number that's showing up in the whole string. And then there's a file that was deleted in that volume with the flag. It was a complex challenge. So those are the 2 on our board that were unsolved this year. I would love to hear lessons learned and your feedback and experiences with them. I like to have difficult challenges. I'm not afraid there's ones unsolved on the board, but I want them tune these so that they play well for you too. Okay, so let's talk about some of the fun stuff up here and some of the interesting things that we saw from your logs. And then we will be open for a few questions for other challenges. Do I need to flip that up?
I suppose it should be on. All right. So there was a challenge that I gave you this image. I teach at Idaho State University, and I gave you this image, and you have to give me 2 images back, one that looks like mine and one that doesn't. But yours have to have the same MD5 hash. And there's a tool online that will do this. And I got some great submissions for images that don't look like mine. This was my submission. Very plain. Oh, and thank you for not making me look at inappropriate images.
Very clean community. Thank you.
Very clean community. Yes. I was afraid of what I would see when I started going through the images. This does not look like my image. Right. Also, not my image. This appears to be a different tool that I haven't seen before, and I'm curious, whoever submitted this one, I'd love to know what tool you used to generate it. It just says image generated by an AI using MD5, blah, 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 blah. This is my new desktop background. This image also does not look like mine. And this also doesn't look like mine. So there's another one.
So I want to talk about this one for 1 second. So this hash collider image, is this are you another image? Or we're going to the next challenge?
No, that's.
Oh, you're okay.
We'll
Yep,
just go
yep.
back to the-
So
we'll go back to the jet.
yeah. So Hash Collider. This was a fun challenge. This year, we finally hit the point where MD5 collisions aren't just you have to use a GPU and spend 4 hours or 8 hours or to get a hash collision. We have identified several methods where you can generate a collision in images or PDFs or various other file formats by padding them with the metadata and the other environments in those images to match your hashes.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of different. Okay, a lot of you submitted things and then complained that the image comparison didn't work well. And everything I know about image comparison, I learned on Sunday. So
I have to tell you, I gave him this idea for this challenge
think
like
Saturday. Yeah.
So like,
I woke up Sunday morning like, I could do that. Oh, wait a minute, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. Yeah, so that was my day on Sunday. But it was a lot of fun. So it was a variant of that challenge. Google posted all the knowledge you needed to do for doing the same thing, but with SHA-1 and PDF. So I gave you an image that says, look, don't touch the llama. And these are responses I got. This was my example. This is it's our Performing Arts Center at ISU. And this is, create a challenge that involves creating a SHA-1 collision. That'll help everyone understand that SHA-1 should die. Okay, these images are not like mine. Yeah, I don't even need to go over those. Also, not my images.
So once again, these were fun. Hopefully you learned a new skill and you learned something and realized something about how bad MD5 SHA-1s really actually are. So it is within the power of your laptop now to create fraudulent images that match these similar to the same hash. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's instantaneous. Should I talk about shell games while I'm here?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so
How many hated shell games? How many loved it?
I had a lot of fun writing them, and I'm sorry that Shell Games 2 was such a problem. It turns out VI is not really designed to be a shell. Who knew?
We started on shell games back in January.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I kind of fell off the face of the earth. But I came back to it and ended up coming up with a total of 8 of them. These are some of the highlights I saw. With the Perl one, so I gave you the problematic eclectic rubbish lister that Larry gave me, which is Larry Wall, Perl. I saw some folks who tried to use expect. I didn't install any extra packages. That takes work. You couldn't fork processes, so system bash, that wasn't going to work. File slurp, I don't even know what that is. Somebody tried to create their own slave PTY and really write a shell. I commend the effort. Wasn't going to work, but I commend the effort. For lol code. Okay, who doesn't love lol code? Somebody wrote a calculator for lol code, or at least pasted one from somewhere online. Unfortunately, it has a syntax error. There's also somebody who just said, "Give me flag," which didn't work either. I'm not posting things that worked. If you want those, I can talk about those later. And somebody just asked the very logical question, I can has key? And which didn't work. Somebody tried to upload an HTTP server, and this is actually much longer. And given that you were in a Docker container with net equals none, yeah, that wasn't going to work. M4 as a shell. So has anybody written sendmail configs back in the bad old days? All right. You're as old as me. So I suffered through M4, so I figured you needed to as well. What I didn't realize is M4 has a way of executing shell commands. Oops. And I didn't really control for that, so you got to get me there. For SH, okay, I loved this particular example, and I think this is the last example on my slide deck. They did an LS. They said, oh, there are files here. And then they read the README file. They didn't bother to read the key, but they did poke around and say, okay, what files are on here? You know, where am I? The key, it's right there. Get the key. So, but whatever. And if you're interested in how these challenges were set up, I'll be doing a write-up for how I set these up so that I limited your scope of influence.
This grew a couple times.
Oh, it did. And I was really surprised. Again, a really safe, nice community. I gave you CC as a shell, and you could write an arbitrary C program. And I saw a few people who tried to call exec, which wasn't going to work. But nobody tried to create a reverse shell.
I was the only one.
Except for Josh. Tried to create a reverse shell out of the VM, which wasn't going to work, but because I thought of that. But anyway, that's what I've got, I think, for
Awesome.
for slides.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time here. I'm going to ask you, what challenges do you want to hear about? What questions do you have? You want to know about nesting dolls. Nesting dolls was fun. This was a great contribution by Professor Plum this year. Hacker's Challenge wouldn't be the same without some of his interesting, nightmarish puzzles. And so Plum says it was just medium hard this year, not hard. Do you agree? So two of you solved it. Oh, I don't even have my list of chains here. I've got the walk through the steps here. Do I dare? Okay, give me 2 seconds here. Let's see if I can Discord without making you guys sick or showing anything I shouldn't. I have friends. Do you want to come up here and talk through it? We'd love it. Well, come up. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So if you want a reminder, here's Plum's hints.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm K-Fates. I always enjoy Hackers Challenge. This year I had other stuff, so I wasn't playing all the time, every night, but still, tons of fun. And so I focused on this challenge because I knew it would be a fun one. The first step was, as mentioned, get it to not be detected by your antivirus. For me, that was just when it detected it, go in and say, ignore this one, it's okay, right? And then the first step I tried was like, okay, what happens if I open it up and run it? I trust Professor Plum, even though it's saying it's a virus, it's not gonna completely destroy my computer, so I'll do that. And as soon as I do that, antivirus flags it again and pulls it out, like, oh crap. Right? So download it again. This is not a virus, right? Okay, let's not run it. Let's just, it's a Word doc. Let's do some analysis with Word docs, right? And pull out the VBA macro. And so use tool did that. And on the VBA macro, then it's, right, got a call to PowerShell. And it's like, okay, let's get the PowerShell script out of there and run it in PowerShell. And there's other ways to do it, like it's looking for certain flags of if this flag is present, then go ahead and run. Most of the time, instead of giving it the key that it's looking for, I would find a way to bypass it. So when we got to the .NET assembly, I can't remember for sure, I think that one was maybe looking for something in the registry. And so instead of putting the value in the registry, I just used IDA to modify the binary. And when it does that check, essentially jump over it and skip it.
Let me mention, if you missed some of these checks, if you didn't set the flag in the registry or you didn't jump over it, you'd get partial flag at the end. You'd have a flag with parts of the message and then the rest would be fuzzed out. Or you had to go back and not just find each of these steps, but you had to actually identify what they were doing and patch for it.
Yeah. And so a great point of that is when it then calls in to the DLL, it passes it a value. And I couldn't figure out how to run the DLL well, I could have, but of setting the right flags. I was running the DLL directly. using run DLL32, which lets you just like launch a DLL as code. But it needs the value that it's passed in. So I would then in IDA go in and modify the registry and just give it the value that was passed in so that it would have it to decode the string. And then the last step from that DLL is it's got a AES encrypted binary that you run. And again, I just use IDA to step through and run it. And that one's making some calls out to DNS to get a domain name and then to make a TCP call. And so again, I'm just watching, looking for those steps and giving it what it's looking for. And each time you find what it's looking for, give it, and then it's able to decode the flag. And at the end, you get the message, you know, here's the flag. So.
Thanks, K-Fuse. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Professor Blum, for the great challenge. I want to call out Billions of Blocks. Who had fun with Minecraft? I know several of you spent hours on it. I hear some of you had some interesting solutions to it. Bash, can I call you up? Really fun challenge from Minecraft. So let me pull it up and just so we can see the. So basically, you're given a Minecraft seed. Oh, you're given a Minecraft video, and your goal is to find the seed that generated this world.
Yeah. So if you haven't played Minecraft before,
Mike.
Oh, good. We have a mic.
Mike for Mike.
Yep. If you haven't played Minecraft before, which many people haven't, believe it or not, the world is randomly generated. So it just starts with a random number, and based on this number, the entire world is created. And so the whole point of it is what you're trying to do is you're watching this video, and you're looking for parts in the video that are based off of this seed number and trying to work backwards. And so do you think you could just pull the video up for a half second? And just like skip halfway through. So kind of what, well.
I've got it here.
What he does is he walks around and he cuts down trees. So.
I thought I had it right here.
It's fine.
No.
So he cuts down these trees, and the method of solving this is based on the trees. There are randomly generated leaves around the tree, and these leaves are generated based on the seed. And so to solve it, what you have to do is you have to go through every single tree and look at the leaves and mark them. And then you basically go through and brute force every possible seed that would have those leaves missing. And once you've got that, you end up with a seed value that you can use to generate the world. But that wasn't good enough because Q decided not to let us use the seed number, and we had to come up with the written value for this seed, of course. So you take all of these possible seeds that they could have been, and you put it into Hashcat, and then you run a huge Hashcat attack against this. So it is a mix of brute forcing a seed number and then brute forcing the written value for it. The hardest part for me was in the beginning of the video. If you're looking at it, there is someone that says a chat message that says hello world. I looked over that for about 3 hours. This live overflow person is actually really important, and this is a huge hint. There's a person who did a video about 3 months ago that talks about the entire process of doing this.
How somebody hacked my Minecraft servers, I think he named it.
Yeah, he's like, they hacked my Minecraft server. And there's a community that goes around and watch streamers' videos and will then hack their seeds and publish them publicly. And they have gone through and they have found all of these methods. So if you want to replicate this, you can go watch his video and then spend 45 minutes to 12 hours trying to crack it. The worst part is he did it at night, so.
So I will call out a few other examples I saw solving this. Thanks, Bash Ninja, for walking us through it. I saw people take and invert the video so they could have better contrast. I saw somebody take and choose a different artifact instead of trees to generate their seeds off of. What artifact was it? if you want to. I'd love to have you. This is an interesting puzzle. It was fun for being the password crack category because password cracking isn't always about cracking just a password. There's other things to attack. It should be. Are we good on the?
There, it was just turned off. Okay, so the artifacts that I was looking at, I was watching them do it with the trees and going, okay, what's this? That means you have to like look at every individual block when you're doing that. But there's a portal, a ruined portal there, which generates chunk-wise. And so I could check, is there a portal in this chunk? And that was the first thing I did. And that gave me a whole slew of possible outcomes. And like Bash was talking about, there was, fun fact, 2 to the 64th million possible, or 2 to the 64th possible seeds. So we can do that by the time the sun burns out, maybe?
Yeah.
But when you use a string, it actually cuts that down to 2 to the 32, which we can do in it takes about 30 minutes, or 15 to 30 minutes just running through every possible seed. So I used the portal, and then to limit it even further, I paused the video along the way and got his current location and the biome. We just blanked out. And so I set a bunch of points along the way. At this point, he's in the beach biome. Now he jumped to a forest biome, back to a beach biome, back to a forest. And I put a bunch of those points in, and then if it failed anywhere along the way, I just discarded that seed and would go to the next seed. And I had 6 or 7 points that I actually sampled. So I could have kept adding more points. And made it even tighter, but with 6 to 7 points, that gave me 6 possible seeds, and I just loaded up Minecraft. And with 6 seeds, I can manually check 6 different seeds. And so on the Discord server, I actually pasted a picture of it during the daytime so you can see what it looks like.
Thank you.
I wrote it in C.
The other thing is, my solution is based on somebody else's, and I'm going to document it someplace. But it was written in C, so it runs a lot faster. The other thing is brute force in the words. What we wound up doing is we generated a set of we took DICT, the words list from Unix, and just made and just hashed all those. So we had a set of hashes to check against. We had errors on our part on reading them in. I'll blame me. It was because I was reading it unsigned and it needed to be signed. And so when I figured that out, I could have actually made it even quicker because I already had a smaller set of seeds that I was iterating through.
Thank you. Okay. Just to tell you the flag there. Yeah. Staying in theme, the flag was creeper. The seed. So, any other particular challenges that people want to call out or ask questions about? I hope. Yep.
What was the AppSec vulnerability that we were supposed to find?
I don't remember. Yes, there it comes. Thank you. Come on up.
I'm Skettrick. I did the AppSec community
Step this way a
this
little bit,
year.
Skettrick. Thanks.
So the vulnerability that you're looking for is related. It's the same kind of vulnerability that was my very first hack. So if I think Troy's in the other room, but he owes me a hack badge now. Anyway, it's mass assignment. So when you log in or when you register your user, we take all the data in the request and stick it in the database. So if you put in is_superuser as one of your fields and set that to true and submit that, you are a super user in the application. So the solution is filter out that field, make it so that people can't just make themselves super user on registration.
So taking input that you normally don't expose to the user and they're adding that input and you're not filtering it out. Yeah. Awesome.
And you could figure that out from looking at the database, the table, what fields are in there, and how that data gets to the database.
Thank you, Skettrick. Appreciate it. Any others? We've got about 5 minutes until we need to wrap this up. Thank you so much for playing Hackers Challenge. I promised some more beginner ones to make it a bit easier to begin. Please stick around for closing ceremonies. We've got some people that have earned some fabulous prizes and really deserve the black badge that's coming towards them. So, oh, one more question. Santiago, can you mind talking about JWT Part 2? I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Which one in particular were you thinking about?
Yeah, that's so the yeah, this is very straightforward. Basically, the easiest way to solve this is with there is a plugin for Portuguese Pro, and it does it. I think it's called key exclusion, and it just sets the algorithm to none, and you just remove the signature.
The one issue that I came across, because I was doing it by hand,
Mm-hmm.
was I had to add a period at the end
Yes.
of my token
Yep.
or my cookie,
Yeah.
with nothing after it, which
Yes.
it wouldn't accept it without it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of, I mean, that was
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for playing Hackers Challenge. I will be back next year, and we will have a slew of awesome puzzles for you to enjoy. Thank you, Rigel. Thank you, Santiago. Thank you, Sheeprock and Squatch. We appreciate it. Google Docs. Thank you. Hopefully we weren't too hard on you. Appreciate it. Is Taco Singularity right here? Is Taco? Okay, perfect.
Test. Okay, if any of you are lacking a vent badge and want to come up and give me a 5-second vent, I have some badges left, not a whole lot. 5 seconds.
All right, all right. We're going to get that slide off the screen.
Well, good afternoon. I hope that you're having an awesome day. I'm finally having an awesome day. This is my last presentation. This one has been prepared far enough in advance that it might be some cohesive process and it wasn't just random musings and things like that. But this presentation goes pretty quickly, and it goes with a lot of thank yous and other things. And so if you've been to closing ceremonies before, you're just going to be applauding the whole time, and it's fine, and everything else. So yeah, get it out of your system. Okay, let's explain this really quickly. So for those of you that were not in the other presentation just a few minutes ago, I did give my best explanation for this. And somebody created this. I still don't know who. I have suspicions. I have some suspicions, but somebody photoshopped this on an early picture that I took of myself and many of the other committee members in planning, probably back in 2014 or something like this. Is old. And they photoshopped a bunch of unicorn pants. And then this shows up every year in slides and other things like that. And so I finally decided I'm going to own it. Like, if I own it, then I control it, right? So the meme is now mine. Anyways, that's it. We're not going to waste any more time on that. Okay, these are going to be similar slides to what you saw during the opening ceremonies. We're just going to do them in reverse, but not really. This conference has been brought to you by the Utah Saint Organization. And many other people that are not directly affiliated with that. So here's our conference. It's a really cool slide. I dimmed the logos in the back, but there are a lot of people doing a lot of interesting and crazy things this year, and has made this, and what I feel is probably, not even probably, this is our best SAINTCON conference for content and everything else ever. Don't applaud yet. Don't applaud yet. It's okay. Hold it. Hold it. Okay. You're going to be able to applaud here in just a second, but I want to, and I didn't even tell Mike. Is Mike around? Mike and Katie, please. I know you're eating. Sorry. I'm going to put you right on the spot. This is how closing ceremonies goes, by the way. This is just kind of a, okay, what? I should have told you. I'm sorry. There's your mic. Okay, we're going to do a riff off right now. You ready? No. I just want you to come up here and get the recognition that you deserve for the badge. And I don't know where your sweet wife is, but half of those claps are for your sweet wife as well. This is MK Factor. Him and his wife are MK Factor. This is CompuKid Mike. He does an amazing job on our badge every year. And he's very socially introverted. Is that even turned on? Like we have.
I think so. Yeah,
okay, yeah, we need to hear your voice.
Okay.
Like he's alive. Of all of the people on our conference planning committee, this guy works probably the most, because it takes a ton of logistics and time and energy to develop, design, engineer, program. Like when you're building a Clue game on a Raspberry Pi Pico, how long did that take you?
A while.
Yeah, a while. When you're designing something from the ground up, it takes a lot of time. So they deserve the recognition. This is the same person that builds DEF CON badges now. He's part of our community. He's part of our committee and things. And so he deserves the recognition. And then all I was going to do is give you an opportunity to talk about the badge challenge, how that went. Do you have the winners and stuff ready to go?
Zeblag does.
Oh, Zeblag put it on his slide. That's great. That's fine. And then the only other thing I'm going to ask you is, what are you willing to share about 2023 badge?
Oh. Apparently nothing. They said nothing.
Let's use a mic that works better.
Okay. Apparently I can't share anything.
So he's subject to authority, obviously. All right. As the committee chairman, what are you willing to share about the badge for next year?
All right. So next year will be very interactive between attendees. We're going back to lots of gameplay between everyone, so it should be really awesome.
That's all you get. Okay, you can go sit down now. Thank you. I mean, I've embarrassed you enough. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Next year's badge, because we only plan one conference ahead, and you know that crazy phrase, we talked about it over there just a little bit ago, but wouldn't it be cool if, we've all had that phrase in our brain, right? That's what happened to think about this next year's badge, and it's going to be epic. Okay. Quickly, I'm going to get through and just talk about some of the events that we had this year. Family night event was off the hook last night. Yeah, I mean, you can sort of apply. If you want to wait, I'll talk to you about all the rest of these too. But the Vent event was brand new this year. How many of you guys got to share a story in the Vent? Okay, all hypothetically, right? Like this happened at some organization, asking for a friend, right? That's what that's for. Sometimes we just need to have somebody else to listen to and understand what we're going through, and that's why we created that. I had the best story, but somebody, Chris, scheduled me to speak at the same time as the Vent event, so I didn't get to come in and share mine. Hack in the Box, we appreciate them. They are an unofficial part of SAINTCON, but across the street, if you want to hang out with the keynotes in the evening and just kind of chat with some really smart and interesting people, I could spend a long time talking about all the different events. We're so appreciative to the people that brought and worked on the different events that we had this year. Hold on. I wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, maybe we just... And then we want to also thank our presenters this year. We had the biggest submissions, or the biggest number of submissions ever to our call for presenters, almost to the point that we didn't have to go out and poach, beg, borrow, and steal people's presentations. Now, we did a little bit of that still, but we almost filled our entire conference with just submitted presentations this year. An amazing feat for us, and it was awesome. So we thank all of our presenters. It would not be appropriate for me to not also thank our sponsors. I don't know how many of you are in the room, but the sponsors are the folks that allow us to have cool things. The badge around your neck, more appropriately, all of the free sodas, the discount prices for lunches and food and all the other things that we do are made possible in large part by contributions for our sponsors. They also contribute to our contests, communities, events, and other things. They help us build the wireless network that we have to throw into the place. And again, I'll mention Centricom specifically, but they just decided to upgrade a 10 gig link right before the conference, saying, we think you guys might need this. And I don't know if Chunk's around, but he mentioned the other day that we had hit over that gig threshold. So we would have hit the ceiling this year, one way or the other. And so we're grateful that we had the bandwidth to hang out and have a good time here. I don't know what we did with that bandwidth, but anyway. Okay, last couple of reminders for you. If you didn't catch this in the opener.
Wait.
Okay, whoa.
We're not done with thank you. If you've been here, you've heard this called TroyCon. Raise your hand if you've heard SAINTCON called TroyCon.
You're early. Get off
No. We're doing
There's
it.
a slide for this. Hold on.
There's a TroyCon slide?
Not necessarily. Hop off the stage.
All right, I'll be back.
I'll get there. He'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'm going to talk really quickly. Yeah, it's okay. No, it doesn't say Troy. Okay, anyways, join the Discord, okay? The best, I mentioned it over here, and you got a big old cheer and everything else in this previous presentation. Well, I wasn't going to fall off. I mean, I felt my toes. Sorry. This gets really weird. I didn't get much sleep last night, and you're seeing it live, right? Or we're doing this live. Okay, I do want to mention that Utah has one of the most vibrant and connected cybersecurity communities anywhere. It's been proven over and over and over again. There's more people from Utah that go to DEF CON and ShmooCon and all these other different cybersecurity conferences and events than any other group out there. In fact, and I mentioned it over here, so sorry if it's a little redundant to some of you, but we are in Utah, and we have just filled this convention center with 1,500 IT and security professionals, where only about 14% are from out of state. That's a lot of cybersecurity people. Now, if you're looking for a way to join that community together and become part of it, this is where we chill, right here. This Discord, the SAINTCON Discord server, it's well boosted by SAINTCON organization funds so that it's got all the bells and whistles and everything else. Come hang out, come interact, and join the conversation that we have there, because SAINTCON doesn't really stop after today. It continues, and you have some of the best and brightest folks on that Discord server all the time. And there's all of the other communities as well out there. There's the 801 Labs community that you can join as well. You can join the DEF CON community and stuff. We're all living on Discord these days. I don't know why, but Slack sucked. So here we go. The other thing is, a little housekeeping item. If you didn't have a meal ticket and you are sitting in this room watching all of these people eat all of these lunches, go out and grab a lunch while they last, because oftentimes, because there's so few people that come back for the final Friday event, that we always, because of liability, we need to make sure that there's food for everybody. We always have a ton of food left over, and it hurts my heart when it gets tossed to the dumpster because they can't take it to a homeless shelter or somewhere else because of the timing and everything else. Sorry, somebody's trying to call me. You'll get back up here. Anyways, so please, if there's leftovers out there and everybody that has a food ticket has had an opportunity, please grab a lunch so that they get eaten and such. So we're taking out the meal card need for that. Okay, this is where the thank you part starts for the volunteers. Okay, we've talked about the communities and everything else, but it does literally take an army of people to volunteer their time and energy to make this conference happen. There are over 100 volunteers. You've seen them in the green shirts that look just like you see on the screen right here. You've seen 40 or so staff members or committee members, so it's actually about 60 to 70 people with red shirts walking around the conference this week. Those are the folks that make this happen. They didn't get paid to be here. They showed up and they donated their time, and they wanted to chill and have a big security family reunion this week. And so we were here, and that's how this conference runs. So right now is a great time to applaud our volunteers and staff members. And then, not to be outdone, you should probably get ready with whatever you're going to do. This is the conference planning committee for this year. The ones that are in silhouette, there's no offense to them. It's just that the artist that does these drawings takes some time, and there were some late additions and some changes and some other things. And so we're going to work on getting more of these really cool figurines made and things. But this is our conference planning committee. These are the folks that put in that 6 months worth of effort to make this thing run. And they literally eat, drink, and sleep this. There are many nights, weekends, and overnights, and other things that go into this conference, and these are the folks that are doing that. So give them a round of applause, too.
Please, sir, am I allowed to come on the stage now?
You may. I mean, if you're going to do the whole...
I feel obligated to point out that this is the first time Seth's ever been the tall guy in the back row. That's why he likes the slide.
Okay.
I got you. No, but like I was saying, who's heard this called TroyCon before? If you haven't, you
don't raise your hand.
There's a reason it's called TroyCon, because there is one person who puts in, he says Mike puts in the most hours, and I can believe that, but if there is anyone who competes with Mike, it's Troy, who very likely puts in more, not just time, his house, his personal, for years and years and years, SAINTCON was Troy's personal money out of his own pocket. It happens now because he makes it happen. Anything falls through the crack from anyone on the slide here, Troy makes up the difference. Anything happens from a volunteer that doesn't happen, Troy makes up the difference. His wife's down there. She also needs a shout out because she puts up with a lot of this. So Burley's down at registration, and she deserves all that applause, but Troy also deserves applause because really, even though there's all these people, it literally would not happen without Troy there calling every week saying, Matt, what the crap? Why have you not done your stuff yet?
I never say that.
He uses stronger words that I'm told not to use.
I don't. I just Matt, are you there?
But really,
hello?
like if you like this conference, this is who you thank for the conference. So everyone give Troy a big thank you and a round of applause.
It's a true labor of love. I don't deserve nearly as much credit as being given. Yeah, I'm passionate about it. I really am. It's in my blood. I love to inspire people. I love to. I mentioned it over there before. The biggest reward for me is the aha moment times when I can see when that kid or that adult or that person gets security or gets vulnerability for that first time and realizes, hey, this is cool, and I can make a career out of this. And I wouldn't even dare put anybody on the spot, but I'll share with you really briefly a conversation that I had earlier this week when I was down and couldn't move more than 10 feet at a time because, hey, he's got Yoda mini badges, hey, he's got Yoda mini badges, kind of thing, which is a thing, I guess, right? But somebody stopped me and said, hey, thank you for what you do. I said, yeah, great, that's fine, you know, it's a community effort. And he says, no, thank you for being the one that inspired me, because now I'm in a cybersecurity career. It's improved my life outcomes. I was on a totally different trajectory, and I came here, and I had an opportunity to have this light bulb moment, and my whole trajectory changed, and I'm way better off for it. And it's not about the money that you make if you're in cybersecurity, because the money's not bad for a lot of cybersecurity jobs and things like that, but when you can improve somebody's life, that's all the thanks that I need, and I received that this year.
Raise your hand if that's you. If your life has been.
That's all right. Get
Honestly,
off the stage.
I'll share with Troy. Raise your hand if that's you. How many of you have bettered your life, your career, or your knowledge through what this man has done? Yeah. Thank you. Again.
All right. It's time for me to get off the stage now. Okay.
He feels warm and fuzzy. He's happy now.
Yeah. That's all. That's all I need. There'll be 2 SAINTCONs now, and instead of just one more, right?
One where we all get to hug Troy.
Okay.
And one where we
if
get
you
to
would
learn.
like to come up and have an awkward hug later or something, that's fine. Okay, here we're going to do, just so we're keeping on time here, that's 20 minutes. That's not bad for the kind of intro into things. The next thing up here, we're going to talk about the contest awards. This is our award ceremony section dedicated to these 2 fine folks who have run the contests this year. And so we're going to let them plug in and take us through all the things. And you're going to have this mic as your handoff. Okay.
So while Josh gets started, when he says contests and communities, that's basically everything that happened down on the first floor. Actually, that's a lie. The contest happened everywhere. So it's awesome. We couldn't have done these without the help of the various people, that the staff, the volunteers, and other people like Standard. I'd like to thank the Academy. I wouldn't be here without all the little people. Thanks, Todd. No, but really, like a lot of what Troy said, the reason that everyone comes back is because we love the people. We want to hang out with you guys. And if I didn't have staff and volunteers, I'd have to work the whole time, but instead I get to hang out with people. And I appreciate that they do my job for me. But really, we have all these amazing communities, and I hope you all got a chance to visit these. We had some of these come through at the last minute. Healthcare hacking, you wouldn't know it, but they had about 3 weeks notice to put that together.
We had a lot of new amazing communities this year.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. All these new ones. So healthcare hacking was new. AppSec was one that somebody who feels, again, all these, if someone feels passionate about something, comes to me. A big shout out. Healthcare hacking was Bruce from IHC came to us and said, hey, I want to do something about healthcare because I care about healthcare and I want to make it more secure. AppSec was Seth Manesi, and Seth Law came to me and said, hey, I do AppSec and I care about this in my daily life. I want to teach people about it. Home Labs, Clipper, if you're here, holy crap. He came to me and said, hey, do you think people might be interested in Home Lab stuff? No, people don't like that crap. It was awesome to see what they threw together and how big it was. Hardware hacking, again, Professor Plum and Hamster. two of the smartest people in the world to learn that from. If you didn't take that opportunity, it was missed, and I hope they're back. Well, if a plug for them, please come back. Badge support was official this year. Everyone knows Mike and Katie. They do amazing every year, and I hope that having space this year officially allocated made your life a little bit better, because it was well deserved. But yeah, it was awesome, and the communities were great. That's not to belittle these other ones that were there before, but it was outstanding. It was fun. We all loved seeing you and watching you learn and getting something out of it.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, communities. We loved you. Please come back, and if you have an idea for a new community, bring it to us for next year.
Absolutely. We're going through, and everything will renew, and we'll do a call for communities probably February or probably March-ish. If you have an idea, let's do it. Bring it.
Thank you to our contests. Several other communities brought, you stay up here, Matt. Several other communities brought contests with them as well, but we also have some long-standing contests that they're stalwart and staunch, and without the community, but they bring you some fun, something to do and to compete against each other, to prove your skills, or to just relax. So, though I don't think anybody actually relaxed that won. First up, if I have any contests or communities folks that feel like they're going to be on stage to say names, please make sure you're up here. We'll get you on quick. First up, we've got RFID.
Logan.
Okay.
Run, Forrest. Sorry, you're not that old. You don't get that reference.
Woo! You want to tell us a little bit about your contest and our first place winner?
Yeah, so this year we had a bunch of different cards that would open a card reader, and they were different kinds, ranging from a super easy card, low frequency, all the way up to I-Class SE, which technically can't be cloned, but there is a bypass. And so we had two people who were able to do that hard challenge this year. Our first place winner was Rav Vader, and we have a Proxmark 3 for him. So everybody clap for that.
For if you won and you have prizes, please come up afterwards. We will give them to you at the end of closing ceremonies. Next up, scavenger hunt. I think we had someone.
Yeah, Marv had to go home. I don't know if you guys know Marv, but he had his legs broken up, and he came literally through the pain to be here for the scavenger hunt. And I will say that I got the most laughs personally out of the scavenger hunt, watching people look for the random stuff. I don't know where he comes up with these ideas. Possibly some of the most random things I've ever seen on a scavenger hunt. But it was awesome to see people. I saw pink Green Day LPs. I saw a whole bunch of random things that I didn't think I'd see at SAINTCON. But
bidirectional diodes.
I don't even know. I have no word. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So for the scavenger hunt, again, there were a ton of people, and at the very end, I think that one person pushed through, but third place, 801 Labs. Give them a hand. Second place, TFQ.
I think so.
They're a husband and wife that aren't here, but they did an amazing job, and kind of this is their first conference, and they decided to jump in, and at their very first conference, they took second place in scavenger hunt, which is impressive. And first place was Professor. Are you here? All right. Woo. Give him a nice round of applause. Come up for your prizes after this. We appreciate that. And again, literally buckets of things came in for this. It was a ton of fun to watch.
And there's a little breakdown of scoring overall. He's might have sent me the slide. Password cracking. I think Q wanted me to handle this. So password cracking is a community that teaches you a little bit about password cracking, hash cracking, understanding the rigs, the hardware, and how to mostly assemble board lists and mutation rules so you can crack efficiently. So it's not just a raw brute force.
And I would say props go out to them this year for making it so that to be competitive, you didn't need to have 8 GTX 3090s. You could do it with, like, I was talking to one of the attendees, and he said on his laptop he was in second place. And that is hard from a creation of the contest perspective to do that. And so props to them for doing that, but props also to the people who won.
They came back with some awesome hardware to show off, welcomed a lot of players, and got a lot of people involved, as Zodiac said. So they came as a contest. They started the community. They came back as a contest. They've done awesome. Over 100 people played. People had a lot of fun. So in second place, or third place. we have Den Secure. In second place, we have Gluttony. Go ahead and give these two an applause. And in first place for the password cracking contest this year is the USHE Goblins.
We want to see the green goblin come get the prize. No prize is given unless it's the green goblin. And if you don't know that, find one of them and ask for the story.
Next up, Los Santos. This is a contest ran by our good friend Keen. He does awesome at it, and he's brought it back for years and amazes us every time.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, it's an escape from a kidnapping simulation scenario, and it's been awesome. We've had kids at 9 years old participating in teams and in singles. This year had way more teams get out there and do the challenge. And I don't know what comes up first. Okay, so for second place on our teams, it was Courtney and Alex, actually, but it's okay. I probably wrote it wrong. But Courtney and Alex, but they're married. They're both Wallens, so we can be happy for them. The
That's
couples that escape together, they stay together. Because you don't leave your wife in a closet.
My apologies on this typo error.
And he didn't. So, but and then the last, the first place team is Bear Jump and Casey Brown.
Woo!
Good job, guys. Way to work it. And then we only had a few of the singles. So if you guys are interested in learning how to do that, come do it next year. And it was Thanes that took first place. Come see me after this is all done. We'll get you what you got.
Thanks, Keen. A new addition this year. The health care hacking community brought a little bit of the competition of themselves. Woo! And we have to get him to the SAINTCON
We just got some just about got some healthcare hacking right there.
I wanted to make sure I made a memorable entrance. I was not planning on that. Okay. Yeah, SAINTCON Hospital. Did you
Bruce,
have the names on there?
Yeah, I have the names when you're ready for them. So Bruce Verth brought it out and totally owned it for us this year. Thanks.
Well, yeah, thanks, and certainly thanks to my team that just really helped at the last minute. Oh, good, you got it there. So we threw together a capture the flag, like was mentioned, in about 3 weeks, and so we had to take for first place, second, and third those that finished it completely. Next year we'll try to make something a little more challenging. So, just real quick, in third place was Cash Coach, I guess. How do you say that? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Second place, the High Trust team, Skamis Tiomner, Code Guru 42, and Fermium. Does that sound right? Okay, great. Yeah. And in first place was a team of one, Phoenix. Phoenix, you still around?
And I will make a call out for Phoenix. He's a first timer here at SAINTCON.
Yeah.
And he owned it.
Yep, there you go. So, yeah, congratulations. You guys come get your prizes from us later. Thanks.
Thanks.
I love seeing all these first timers up on the board winning stuff. It's awesome. These are open to anyone. Anyone can win. Chuck and Amelia, you out there? You're coming. Okay. You're not healthcare hacking. You just have to do it stealthily and not let anyone know you were there.
Undetected, right? So yeah, thank you for everyone who came and stopped by our booth and interacted. We also had our contest. We had about 28 entries, and we did it team this year, so they were team challenges. So
for those that haven't played Tamper Evident, basically you're given a box. Just give us a run quick right now.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
So you were given kind of like a mini box, right? It's your mini briefcase. They were actually handcuffed to it. They had to go through multiple layers of tamper-evident devices, right? Had to bypass it and make sure it looked like you didn't get in. And they actually had to replace a fingerprint this year. So they had to lift up the tape, wipe it off, and put their own chocolate-covered fingerprint on it. So we had some great entries this year. It was actually came down to a tie of first and second, and deciding factor was speed. So, but in third place we had Risk Services, and then in second place the Belch, and then in first place we had Garfield. So, thank you.
And some of these tamper evidence, a great example of where even if you weren't competing in the competition, they had things for you to go and do. I personally used it to remove RFID stickers that I put where I shouldn't have. It's good, and JC thanks you, Amelia, because he's where I put them where they shouldn't have been, and he appreciates that they moved.
All right, hello everyone. We had a very big update this year. So we overhauled our entire vault. Our goal was to use commercial grade metal doors, construction. We even increased the locks. We had skiff locks. We had trilogy locks that you see in airports to restrict access. We had high frequency I-class readers. Big upgrade. We removed the runs, so there's no more timed approach. You didn't have to gather a team and wait. Everything was self-service, externally facing. Who had an opportunity to experience the vault? Are you not impressed? All right, who here got to play with the safes? Woo! I'm bringing more safes next year. All right, so it sounds like you kind of liked it. Maybe not. It's good. All right, I'll bring it. We also had the safe cracking. All of our doors, all of our safes every day got progressively harder, one after another. We had an attendee who this was her first information security conference, went through all of our safes, had no safe cracking experience. Woo! Yeah! That blew me away. I still can't figure it out, and I run the thing. However, I just want to say we couldn't make this happen without the help of our team. Thank you. I want to recognize my right-hand man, Kyle, who's tearing it down right now. Also, Snow for her help, Davis, who couldn't be here, and our newest team member, Sir Ged, who helped with the 3D printing. I also want to thank the RFID, IoT, and lockpicking who helped our attendees, tools, knowledge. Thank you all because you made the competition that much harder for our first and second place teams. So with that, I'd like to announce our second place team, Bear Jump. I think that's the second victory they have now. Excellent. And then to the victor goes the spoils, our first place team for Amazon gift cards, high tech, low tech. Woo! All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next year. If you have ideas or new challenges, come see me.
Badge challenge. This year, a real new addition as a full-on competition. We had the badge challenge. And Mike and his team, Redacted, really rocked it out of the world this year. It was some good fun.
Yeah, so huge thank you to Redacted. He built the entire back end and the code that ran on the kiosks that all the badges interacted with. Couldn't have done it without him, so thank you. Yeah. Yes. So a few people had issues with their LEDs. There's updated firmware on the GitHub, links on the back of your badge, and instructions on how to do that, and it fixes some of the LED problems people are having. I do have extra mini badges of mine, and lots of extra of the expansion mini badge wings. Come find me after. I've got tons of them. Yeah, we're not using them next year. We don't want them. Come get them. A quick note, when you go play these types of games, please don't attack the infrastructure, right? The kiosks themselves are not to be tampered with, right? Don't open them up, please. Anything that is external to the kiosk, right? Please hack your badge, play with it, man in the middle between your badge and the kiosk. That's awesome and great. Do not attack the actual machine itself.
Thank you.
Okay. So who actually played the game? Awesome. Who finished the game? Nice. All right. So we had randomized games per user, which was awesome and funny to see people try to tag team it, and it really just didn't work. But we had 569 people play the game, 9,000 suggestions, 300 accusations, and 250 people finished the game and unlocked their badge.
Good job.
Yeah. So for prizes, we've got some Raspberry Pi Pico development kits for everyone. And then first place actually gets a mini badge designed by me, and they'll get 100 of them next year to pass out.
Sweet.
So, yeah. So, in third place, we had N. Walton 737. Second place, I don't even know how you pronounce that. 5YND2UM. Whatever that is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever that means. And in first place, Tofu.
Woo!
Thank you.
Is there any other contests or communities that needed to say something on the stage that we missed? Thank you.
I'm going to leave because this one is all Josh. He did all the work, and I don't want to steal any of his thunder because Josh pours his heart and soul into this Hackers Challenge. So he deserves the stage alone for a minute on this one.
The black badge at SAINTCON allows an attendee to come back every year with free entry. Beyond that, it's a badge of honor and pride for the efforts and the hours spent in playing a challenging and difficult game. This year, as most years, there's only one black badge awarded for contests, and that is for the Hackers Challenge contest. I, as the Hackers Challenge Game Master this year, had a ton of help and can't say thank you enough to the staff members that joined me and made this a load that I could continue to carry and deliver a game that you guys love. Thank you, Rigel. Thank you, Santiago. Please give them a big round of applause. I will be back. This year in the Hackers Challenge, we had a ton of competitors and had a lot of fun. If you missed the Hackers Challenge Shakedown and want all the stats, it was recorded and you can find it on the YouTube stream. In third place, we had Nope Sled. In second place, we had Lego Clones. And I have to say that this morning, there was reversals like 3 times back and forth between second, third, and first. So it was a tight competition. They all deserved to win, but only one could, and pulled ahead at the last minute with Taco Singularity. Beyond the number of prizes, there is this handmade gold Hacker Challenge trophy designed by my dear wife, and the black badge. Congratulations, Taco Singularity. Please find me afterwards to gather the last of your prizes. And everybody else, I hope you have some fun competitions. Thank you for playing, and come play next year. This is not a troll. We want your feedback on communities and contests. Please scan it and give us your feedback. Thank you. It is also on Discord. Troy, it's all you.
All right. We're done, basically. So I just get a last couple of few words. They've done an amazing job, all of the committee members, everybody else. I'm not asking for more applause. They are very well deserving of all of the gratitude and things that I can portray. This is the end of SAINTCON, but I often get asked right after this, like, what can we do to help? So I'm just going to answer the question right now. There's a lot of teardown and other things that we have to do in order to be able to get out of here and go home and start sleeping and making up for the hours of sleep that we've missed. And so if you are willing and wanting to help, a couple of things that you can do is that, like the power strips, not the things, not the runs of power cords, but just the power strips themselves. If you can pick them up when we're done here and to like set them on the desk to make them easier for people to grab and put away, things like that are easy. If you have more time that you can dedicate to helping us tear things down, go find one of the committee members downstairs in the expo floor. That's where the majority of the tear down and other things happen. Please don't tear down much of the AV stuff here. If you're really interested in tearing down AV, John right over here, you can come up and ask for permission to help, but we want to make sure that the AV gear is treated carefully, and so he's got some volunteers and things generally arranged for that. But that's really it. We appreciate you being here. We hope that we've impressed you to come back again and join us. Grab a lunch on the way out if you didn't get one, and we will see you next year.